Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Gettin' Savvy in Health, Wealth, and Beauty. Important to note that everything is for entertainment purposes only. Please do speak and meet with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. And also, please meet and speak with your GP before making any health or beauty decisions. Hey, Melissa, you're wearing a turtleneck.
Yeah, I am.
How? I'm actually in the tropics. How cold is it?
It's not that it's like gloomy and rainy, but that's not the reason I'm wearing the turtleneck. The
Uh-oh.
reason I'm wearing the turtleneck is because I just ran home from the gym and I'm like, oh, I have to look, somewhat professional. What am I going to wear
Yeah,
for this podcast? And I follow Megan Kelly. And I noticed that whenever she wears a turtleneck, I think it looks nice on her podcast. So I was like, oh, I'll put on a turtleneck. And does it look nice?
it does. And
Yeah,
actually,
there
that's
you go.
always, there you go. That's actually always my go-to is a turtleneck.
Yeah, it looks,
Put together. As
yeah.
I'm in a sweaty t-shirt. It's very hot here. It's probably 90 degrees.
Where are you?
Cayman.
Oh, you're in Cayman.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
Was
nice.
telling me they were at a really nice place there in Cayman that I hadn't heard of before. Palm Resort.
Palm Heights.
Palm
Palm
Heights.
Heights. I just was
Yeah.
there for lunch.
What is that? Is that an area or is it a
Yeah.
hotel?
Well, it's funny you say that because it's now kind of the Instagrammer place to be.
Yep.
Does that suit your friend who was just
Yep.
there?
Well, I don't
There
know
you
if it's my
go.
friend, but I'd never heard of it before. And I've only been to Cayman once actually for the
Yeah.
wedding.
That's right. It is newish. It used to be called something else, and then they renovated it. It's got a great restaurant on the beach, and I don't know, people love it. I love it. It's great.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. But I'm
So
in a sweaty t-shirt.
my Hurricane Melissa didn't go near Cayman?
No,
Okay.
no. It's hard to I mean, they'd rain, but no damage.
No major. Yeah. So just
No.
nice out there.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I thought you were gonna say you're wearing a turtleneck 'cause you had some procedure done.
I did have a procedure done, but I
Oh,
didn't do it on my neck and I didn't have any downtime. It was really interesting actually. So this company got in touch with me because they were looking to tell me about a machine that they thought I may want to purchase for the practice. And so one of
mhm.
the perks of being in the business is that you get to try some of these things, which can be a perk or a problem.
Right.
And the machine is called Energet and it's a needle-free way to deliver serums under the skin. So basically, it uses a high-pressure jet kind of propulsion to get these things under your skin, so you don't actually need a needle.
Hmm.
So it's very cool. It was marketed to me as like 2 out of 10 pain. I can't say it was 2 out of 10 pain, but I think it might have been because the product that I used normally it should have had lidocaine, and the one I used didn't have lidocaine in it. So basically, they did this thing called a kinetic facelift. So they use a hyperdilute hyaluronic acid. So if you think about like a filler that you would put
Okay.
in your cheeks or in your lips, that's hyaluronic acid. But they
Yeah.
use 1 cc of that, so one syringe, but the other 9 cc's is saline. Okay.
So water, you're filling your face up with water.
With mostly water and some of this filler. But if you think of one syringe of filler over your entire face, I mean, it's not
Right.
going to do much. I think it's mostly the water. But apparently, what it's supposed to do is cause micro injury to the tissue under the skin, and that's what causes collagen stimulation. So I had it done. They did it around the edges of my face and my jawline and in the scalp.
Right.
And I had no downtime, like, I coulda gone out that night, so that was a pro. I wasn't red, I didn't have any scabs or bleeding, like, I looked fine, and I don't have anything today, but I don't know, like, I don't know the
Did you see a difference?
So I did actually see a difference after because I think just the added
Sure.
hydration, like, you're so much extra fluid, and that added hydration is lifting things up because it's taking up space.
Space.
Right? So I actually think I did notice a difference. Now, I think you get the short-term benefit. It's sort of like when we do Sculptra. It's the same thing. It's lots of saline going into your face, so you notice the benefit right away. Then that goes down, and then you trust that over the next 6 months, you're actually building the collagen. I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm 100%. Put it this way, I didn't purchase it. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a really interesting mechanism, especially for people that are needle phobic. Like if you're very afraid of having a needle, this is a way to have a procedure done and get stuff under your skin without using a needle.
But the only thing is, I mean, when you're sitting there getting whatever it is with the
Mm.
needles, right, to penetrate. I mean, you don't really think of it as a needle. It's like little pricks. So I don't know how afraid people are of that other than the pain. And then if the pressure is so hard, it's penetrating your skin. I don't know that that's better or worse. It's the same
Well, you
idea.
don't get the bruising. So the difference is, like, I don't know if you've ever had skin boosters. So skin boosters would be a similar thing. It's when it uses like a very thin hyaluronic acid and just goes right under the surface of skin, and you create these like little blebs that you can see all over. And it's
Okay.
supposed to help stimulate collagen and give you hydration. But because you keep poking with a needle, people can end up quite bruised.
Hmm.
Whereas
Okay, I've never
this,
had
because
that.
there's no poke, there was no bruising. So that is a benefit.
Hmm.
Um,
But the issue too, if you really think about it and how much water you're putting in, like presumably like a week or so, that goes down. Your body, your body gets rid of the hydration in the water, and then all you've done, in my opinion, is you stretch out the skin, and then it just goes back down, and you're hoping that it's one for one, right? The hydration that you just put in is one for one, replaced by the collagen your body supposedly creates. So I don't know. That seems like a lot of, like,
I
I
don't
don't
know,
know,
but don't
wear and
forget, you're
tear.
putting 10 cc's of saline. It's not just in one spot that's going to stretch.
Right.
It's all over. So it's not going to stretch. And it's really actually also good for PRP, especially for hair treatments. So for people, especially like men and some women too, they want to do PRP on their scalp, but the needle
Hmm.
hurts a lot.
Yeah.
A deterrent. Uh,
Right.
and so
So
with this, they're able to get the PRP into the scalp without a needle. And
so maybe that is a big benefit if it didn't hurt you that much
so
on the
again,
head.
no, it was better than, like, a needle in the scalp.
Okay.
So it didn't hurt. No,
All
it
right.
hurt more along bone. It hurt a little bit more. I can feel it a little bit along my jawline. It hurt a little bit more there. And then they can alter the pressure.
Sure.
So, I don't know. Again,
Melissa, you're so
back into the
courageous.
things we do.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
You're very courageous. I'm not quite like that. I
Yeah.
should
Well,
be. I don't know.
I mean, I just was like, also, I'm very much, I have a hard time promoting something,
Yeah.
selling something to someone until I've tried it myself and I
Yeah.
actually going to work.
Yeah. You have to
So
try it.
I have to be, if I'm not willing to try something, then I can't,
Yeah.
say, oh, this is great. You should do it.
Yeah. For sure.
You know,
Okay, yeah. A girlfriend of mine just had something done on her chest, like, I guess one of those, when I don't know if you take away the spots or you tighten up the skin. What are people doing for that these days that you
well,
see?
they might have been doing like CO2, like a CO2
Okay,
laser, some sort of laser
probably.
device, probably. Yeah.
Do you do that at all, Melissa?
Have I done it myself?
Well, no, like, do you believe in it? Do you have
Yeah.
one?
CO2, I think, is probably, people look at it as probably the most effective.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, skin resurfacing.
And for the face too?
Yeah, but you have downtime with that. That's not just a daytime procedure and go out that night. You have like a
Okay,
week or even 2 weeks of downtime from a good CO2 treatment.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been looking at the markets much lately, or what have you been focused in on market-wise?
Yeah, well, it seems like everybody's panic selling. So I
Yeah.
this is what I've looked at the market, okay?
Okay.
So I follow some Instagram accounts that are market focused and financial Instagram accounts. And I start seeing all these people talking about this one's giving a worry signal, panic signal. There's, I don't know, all these people talking about how AI, or what's that guy's name? Burry sees a
Oh,
bubble
yeah.
and he hasn't
Yeah.
tweeted in ages. And for finally, he said, I see a bubble. And now he's shorting the market. So a lot of
Mhm.
people are looking at that. And I think there was someone else, Diamond, what's his name? Jamie Dimon,
Jamie Dimon, yep.
went on.
CEO of JP Morgan, yep.
Yeah, went on and talked about how uh, everything's overvalued and there's going to be a crash. And so as soon as people start talking about this, what I see is that
Mhm.
people are like, oh no, I need to take some profits. I need to take profits. I need to sell. I don't want to get screwed if it goes down. So then they listen to the social media. There's people start selling. When people start selling, that's what causes the market to go down.
Right. Right.
Right. And then the question is this real or was this just psychological fear? And then you're like, are you going to start seeing my Instagram accounts feed start saying soon, buy the
Buy the
dip?
dip.
Are you going to
Yeah.
buy the dip? Like when there's a real crash, it seems like 2008, you know,
Yeah.
that was real. Like people weren't saying like I don't know. Well, maybe they were. Maybe I wasn't following it back then as closely as I am now, saying buy the dip, but it seemed like there was a real reason for it.
Well, there was. I mean, the financial institutions, many of them did go under, and there was concern in terms of the counterparty risk in terms of who owns, debt that won't ever get paid back, and then does that take that bank under? And if that bank's doing business with, bank over here, what's their counterparty risk? Because they kind of all, were were cross product and cross selling to each other, right?
Well,
And
that's
trying
what's
to
happening now, right?
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
they're saying that's happening now with the Mag 7. They're all cross-selling to each other, and the amount of debt
Right.
they have that's
That's
not on
different.
paper. Okay, is
Right.
it? Tell me.
So to me, so a couple things there. One is uh, very different situations. I mean, I understand what you're saying, what the market's saying in terms of, these large tech companies are saying, well, I'm going to buy this chip from this company, but then I'm also going to sell them something. That's kind of what they're saying. So in other words, yeah, I'm buying, but I'm also selling. So what's the net benefit really to the companies and to the market as a whole? So in other words, is the market does it appear much bigger than it is because you're announcing all these different deals, but yet they're really kind of just doing deals within each other. So does that really increase the market size, or is it much smaller than what the deal sizes would indicate? So that's the issue, that's the question mark, and it really dovetails into whether or not the opportunity for AI is overblown. And what I mean by that, because I think we all agree that it will be here, it is now, and it is the future AI. But is the market um, over exuberant in terms of the valuations of these companies, assuming that these companies are really going to generate a ton of revenue off of AI and also a lot of profitability from AI? So that's the question mark, right? And whether or not the companies, the stocks are overvalued, and the view of what economic benefits it will actually bring to whether it's AI companies, tech companies, or just an industrial company as an example, is that overblown? So that is definitely weighing on the market. To me, that is very different than the financial crisis because the financial crisis was really, if you remember, it was a housing market bubble and people buying, six homes with, no payment down. And how do you do that? Well, then the banks just created more and more vehicles. If you have a mortgage, well, let's divvy up that mortgage to decrease the risk, and you take that part of the mortgage, and you take that part of the mortgage, so that if there is a financial crisis, well, it doesn't all fall on me. But the reality is that's where all the counterparty risk came in, and it fell on many banks, and they had to be bailed out. So to me, that's a system. I mean, in some way, I mean, it definitely warrants conversation and thought. But when your financial systems, like the money flow of your banks in your own country, let alone around the world, that to me is a much bigger issue. And I think one of the issues that a lot of people think about, but you never know when it's going to pop up, is a global debt crisis. In other words, so many of these countries around the world, including our own here in Canada, our deficit is over $1 trillion. We, of course, had more debt announced this week with the latest budget. And keep in mind, it's grown dramatically, over the past 10 years. And the question is, and that's in many countries, this inordinate amount of growth of debt, global country debts, right? And so the big question is, what will the next financial crisis look like? And many people would say it will be a global debt crisis. But
Yeah.
people have been saying that for a number of years now, like since the last financial crisis. And when you've seen, especially with all the debt that these governments have put on during COVID, that was warranted. But the problem is, particularly in Canada, we kept spending and not generating revenue. We've talked about that. The growth in Canada is essentially muted, zero, and yet the spending continues and will continue, and we have no revenue generation because we don't unleash our incredible resources here. So, and all the regulatory and tax issues, we've talked about this. Many people are leaving Canada, so that's certainly doesn't bode well. But anyway, all back to the fact that the concern, more so than the AI issue that you bring up, which definitely is talked about and definitely weighs on the market and the stocks, depending on what the narrative is for the day. I sometimes do worry about more of a debt credit crisis than
Yeah.
the AI
Things
crisis.
that I've seen was this major the AI, the big thing I'm seeing is like the AI bubble, and that, if you look at like OpenAI, it doesn't really have any revenue, and yet it has so much debt. So they're trying to create ways to give them money I don't know. It's
Yeah,
something I didn't, so, so the whole thing was, but then I think about OpenAI, like at the beginning, they were saying the same thing about Facebook. Facebook has no revenue. Facebook has
right.
no revenue. And look, Facebook figured out how to have a lot of
That's right.
revenue,
That's
so
right.
I feel like OpenAI, I mean, just based on how incredible ChatGPT is,
How much we use it. Yeah.
and how much we use it and rely on it. So we'll see. And then the government shutdown in the US
Hmm.
seems like that's affecting the markets.
Right.
And then this whole Supreme Court decision on the tariffs and whether the US is going to have to pay back $1 trillion.
Hmm. So,
So,
so those are all aspects that are weighing on the market. And then at the same time, you know, you can look at the earnings results, which you and I have talked a little bit about. And I wanted to focus on three companies in particular today, which we'll get to. But in general, the earnings have been really quite good for many companies. So that's a positive. The fact that some of the economic data as of late in the United States has been muted, maybe a little bit disappointing, that gives some investors the belief that the US Federal Reserve will, in fact, continue to cut, which we know when they cut interest rates, that tends to move the markets higher. And then the AI CapEx story, the AI, if we recall, sometimes it's a big boost to the market. And then to your point right now, though, the sentiment seems to be changing. And is it a real concern that it's overblown? So all of those three things, depending on your view and one's view of the economy and the world, you can either say it's bullish or it's bearish. And that is exactly what makes the market. And when you see the market go down, obviously those concerns are weighing more so than the upside. And often too, Melissa, there's often one catalyst for that particular day that can move the market, one or two, right? So as an example, some of the job cuts, the Challenger job cuts, so an economic data report showed that the job cuts are the highest in 2 decades, and that they're actually up 65%. And we've seen a number of these large companies announce layoffs, like Amazon, Meta, IBM. But some people would say, well, they hired too many people during the COVID time period, so that they're getting rid of that. A lot of companies get rid of the bottom 20%. And then of course, AI is preventing, companies from hiring. And it's also companies are being, maybe a little more cautious, to your point, about the macro headwinds, like the tariffs that we're talking about.
yeah. So did you buy or sell anything?
I haven't. And but I'm not afraid to. And I think me, I ruminate on different stocks and stories before I buy them. As you know, I mean, I bought Google only 6 months ago, 6 months ago, and I'm up 85%. So a lot of that comes to buying at the right time. And so even though, we've just spent, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes on the macro, which I always think is important to kind of have your view and understand the different dynamics going on, which you do, which is great. Then I'm always like, okay, well, what stocks are doing well on their own fundamental front? And don't forget too, everything's affected by, the macro environment. But what is the price of the stock, and am I comfortable to get in at this point? So just as an example, and this is goes to your point about Facebook way back when they didn't have a lot of revenue, not a lot of profit, but then now look at it. So one of the stocks I want to talk about, because it is earnings season and wrapping up earnings season, is Celsius, the energy drink.
Yeah.
Do you drink it? And what do you think about these energy drinks? You probably don't drink them. Why?
I don't, I mean, I actually saw a study that correlated worse health in people that use energy drinks. Like if you're using an energy drink, why?
Right?
Not sleep well? Is it because you were partying and you need the energy? Is it because you're not like what I've never felt like I need an energy drink. And also like when you think of an energy drink, I think of some mix of caffeine, sugar, whatever that taurine that's in so why am I drinking that?
Right. Well, but apparently the Celsius, and I've had them, but I believe what you're saying too. Like I'd rather have my green juice, which I did this morning, and I only have maybe a quarter of a cup of coffee, like nothing. But some of these
Well, I
drinks,
drink coffee. That's my energy.
oh, okay, okay. But when you look at the supposed vitamin content of some of these newer energy drinks, I mean, you get a lot of vitamin B. I mean, you get a lot of somehow
Hmm.
these nutrients
Okay. But what kind of Celsius? Let's look up some of the. Isn't Celsius majorly in the red right now?
in the red in terms of,
Down. Isn't that stock down a lot?
yeah. So it's I have it here. Um, wait, it's up. I want to say it's up. It's up on the year. Uh, but the reason why I brought it up is because they just reported their most recent results. You can take a look at the stock price or on a 52-week basis. Oh, 52. So on a 52-week basis, because I look at stocks like that. So the low was $21, the high was 66. It's trading at $42 right now. And I think it's up about 39% on a year-to-date basis. However, and they just reported their numbers.
Bad, right?
Pardon? No, so this is probably what you're referring to.
Okay.
They had a very strong top and bottom line beat. What does that mean? Top line is revenue, bottom line is profit, right? You take the revenue minus all the expenses, you get the bottom line. Very strong. So they beat on the top line as well as the bottom line, but the stock traded down, I think by about 6%. I think it's down at 6% right now. And that's because they had elevated expectations going into what's called the print. So the street thought they're going to be great, but maybe too many people thought that they were going to be great and they weren't as great as some people thought. And so they sell on, that's called selling on the news.
Okay.
Okay. So sometimes then you have to go, okay, well, it's down. If it's down 6% today, maybe it's a buying opportunity for me because I like the long-term story. So the long-term story is apparently they've got about growth over 100%, like top line growth is very strong. So over 100% top line growth. Most things don't grow at 100%. We know that,
Yeah.
right? So that's a positive, obviously. And why do they have that? Pipeline innovation. This is what analysts are saying. So pipeline innovation. They just came out with a new drink, which I actually just had the other day.
What
It's
was
called
that? Tell me. Yeah.
it's called Spritz Vibe, or at least I think that's what I had. And so they've got new drinks, pipeline innovation. Also importantly, when you have a product, where does it sit on the shelves? So there's a view that in a grocery store, you want things end caps at the end of an aisle is always a good idea. Eyesight's always a good idea. So next time you go in a grocery store, look and see where products are placed. So product placement and in more distribution and more stores is a positive. So that's a view. And then also interestingly, they have a huge opportunity to expand internationally. Right now, only 3% of their sales are outside the United States, whereas Monster Beverage, Monster,
Yeah.
you know, their their sales, 40% of those sales of their sales, and it's an older brand or older as a public company, 40% of their sales are outside the United States. So, if you look at Celsius, only 3%, and if the company could have 40% of their sales outside, that's a long runway for potential international growth. So then it comes down to, okay, well, do I want to own Celsius? What do I want to pay for it? And because they don't have much in the way of earnings right now at all, their price to earnings, so the price of the stock over their earnings is trading at like over 300 times, whereas the market right now is trading at about 23 times. So do I really want to pay up? And some people will say, yes, I want to pay up because I think they're going to continue to grow their top line at over 100%.
Huh. Wow.
So that's where, pardon?
So here's what I was referring to earlier. Okay.
Okay.
So energy drink consumption correlates with several adverse health outcomes, including cardiovascular problems like high blood pressure and irregular heart rate, neurological and psychological effects such as anxiety and insomnia, and metabolic issues. These negative effects are linked to high caffeine and sugar content, with some ingredients like guarana potentially increasing caffeine levels. Excessive use is also associated with other risky behaviors, including alcohol and drug use, poor sleep, and unhealthy dietary patterns. So, like for me, when I hear a patient telling me they drink a lot of energy drinks, I'm like, no. Like, that to me is like a health risk, but you know, but,
Yeah,
uh, you know, whether I mean, if you look at some of the best businesses in the world, they're tied to addictive,
that's
unhealthy
right.
things like, Philip Morris,
Cigarettes.
cigarettes, uh,
Yeah. Philip Morris,
marijuana,
Altria.
caffeine,
Yep,
McDonald's, fast food. So these are the things people like.
that's right. And so, some people will not invest in stocks that they believe are harmful to people.
An
And
ethical investor, or
yeah,
if that's part of your, yeah.
that's right. I wouldn't, to me, energy drinks aren't in that camp. It's not like a sin stock, right?
No, it's not. Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because you and I started this podcast really talking about, okay, well, what products do we like? What don't we like? And therefore, would you kind of want to invest in it? So for you, I'm kind of hearing that even if it was a screaming buy because the valuation was low, I don't think it's something you'd actually be interested in.
No, it's not because I don't consume it. I don't use that product. I don't buy
Right.
that product out those products. But that's not to say I don't, it just,
Hmm.
mhm.
So on that note, let me just move on to one other stock. So there's been a number of earnings, obviously, companies reporting their quarterly results. That's what earnings are. And the reason why we like it is because we get an update in terms of how the company is doing, their revenue, their outlook. Companies will provide an outlook for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
So one company that you do use in your home is Ninja.
Yeah, I do
Right.
every day.
Every day. And you and I, when we first started this podcast, we looked at the Ninja stock, which is called Shark Ninja. And the ticker there is SN. And you and I looked at it, and I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, it was trading at too high of a multiple. Remember that? It was just too expensive for me.
Yeah,
So that was about a year ago. So since this past year, or over the past year, what do you think the stock's done?
gone up,
No, it's down
going
4.8.
down.
It's down
Oh,
4.8%. So we didn't miss
right. So we
out.
didn't miss out. Okay.
We didn't, and the market's up,
Yeah, and the
10,
market's up
12%.
too.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
we didn't miss
we did a
out.
good thing by not buying
We did a good thing because I felt for me personally, it was
too expensive.
trading at too high of a multiple.
Yeah.
So they just reported their most recent results and they had an excellent quarter. They beat across the board. So whatever metrics they report, they had strong results, and to the point where the company raised their expectations for the remainder of the year, for their fiscal year. So that gives you a lot of confidence that things are going well. And why is this happening? Well, they have robust innovation in their various products. We know they've got a host of products,
Mhm.
and that's across like existing as well as new categories. And then they've also got the ability to expand geographically. So a lot of the time when you see these companies that are called growth companies, like Shark Ninja is a growth company, Celsius is a growth company, and they're a growth company because they're growing and they have more markets that they can grow into. So when you see that companies can move into other geographies, that can be a positive as long as they can do it well, right? That product, these Shark Ninjas have to do well in other countries. Like, is it appealing if you lived in a small apartment in Europe? Do you want all these bulky products? Like, where are you going to store them? So maybe it's not that great. But anyway, they reported strong results, and importantly, Melissa, when I say that, what do I mean? They reported a bottom line earnings per share of $1.50, $1.50 per share in earnings versus $1.29 expectation. So that's a
Ooh,
big beat.
yeah.
And just so you have perspective, I always like to understand, okay, well, what does this company generate in revenue on an annual basis? Well, they're expected to generate $6 billion in revenue for 2025. And the expectation is that they'll grow it at about 15%. And when you buy a product and you think something's expensive, you always kind of wonder, well, what's the company making off of me? Like Could it be cheaper? So that's
Mm,
where you kind of want to look at their gross margin. So GM, gross margin. The gross margin at this company is 45%. So that's their kind of profit right off the top is 45%. Then they have to pay for all their expenses and everything. But the gross margin on,
wow.
yeah, across the board
Okay.
for this company. So getting back to the stock price. So as I said, it's down 4.8% on a year to date basis. It's currently trading at the 52-week high low. So the range that we've seen on stock is $60 on the low side up to 128. And it's currently at $91 and it trades at 22 times on a PE basis. So that means P, again, price, take the price of the stock divided by the earnings, which is, I don't have it for the year, but it's trading at 22 times. And that's around where the market is. So this growth company is trading at a market multiple.
Okay.
So it seems somewhat reasonably priced right now relative to history. And it has, 15% revenue growth on it. So it's,
That
you
could be
know,
interesting
yeah,
then.
yeah, could be. So anyway, I have another one, but what's on your docket?
So I don't know if you saw melatonin in the news. Did you see it this week?
No, tell me.
Do you take melatonin?
I rarely do because I'm concerned about it.
What? Okay, interesting. So the headline that's been going around is that melatonin is linked to a 90% higher risk of heart failure.
What?
Yeah, exactly. What? So this spooked a lot of people
Okay.
because a lot of people think of melatonin as something just, you can just pick it up. You don't need a prescription
Yeah.
here in Canada or the US and give it to kids and people take it, at night. And so it we then had to like dig deeper. Okay. So
Right.
it's like, what does this mean? Does this mean we need to all stop using melatonin? Was this what kind of study was this? So it looks like this was just an observational study. It's not yet peer reviewed. They just introduced it. And what they did is they looked at 30,000, I think it was 30, maybe 100. Let me check. Hang on.
Okay.
Health records across hospitals from multiple different countries. And they compared people that had insomnia. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
trouble falling asleep. For those that were prescribed melatonin to those that didn't get prescribed melatonin. And they tried to match all other factors similarly, like they tried to match them for age, sex, weight, other health problems. They excluded people in the study that were using other sleep prescriptions.
Yeah.
And they excluded people that had a previous history of heart failure. And when they compared the people that were given the prescription melatonin to those insomniacs that weren't, they found this significantly increased risk of heart failure. So it was like, okay, however, this is just an observational study. So now let's pick it apart.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps in Canada and the US, you don't get a prescription for melatonin. It's something that you can just
Right.
go buy off the shelf. So were the people considered non-users of melatonin really non-users? Or might have been just they've been taking it off the shelf without being given a prescription. Okay. So that's one thing. So we don't know if the people not in the non-melatonin group were actually not using melatonin. Okay.
Okay.
Then we also don't know were the people that were actually given a prescription more severe insomniacs? Like, was their insomnia
Right.
worse?
Which
And
could hurt their heart if they're really bad sleepers,
they're
right?
bad sleepers. What's causing their bad sleep? Could it be? We know that sleep apnea is correlated with poor sleep and with high blood pressure and heart
Yeah.
disease. We know that alcohol use is correlated with poor sleep. And then you have to look at who would be prescribed melatonin and not a different drug. Like when I have someone come into my practice saying I'm having trouble sleeping, yes, sometimes I'll say to them, well, you can try over the counter supplements like magnesium, you can try melatonin. We talk about sleep hygiene practices, going to bed at, the same time each night,
Mhm.
getting all your devices out of the room, making sure there's no external light sources, making sure the temperature is comfortable and cooler temperatures. You tend to sleep better. Trying to avoid any caffeine like energy drinks or coffee
Right.
in after 12 o'clock noon.
Mhm.
Trying to avoid working out and exercising too close to bedtime. So we talk about all these things that can help
Mhm.
you sleep. And then we say, okay, try things like magnesium or melatonin first. But if someone's saying that's not doing the trick, doc, then usually I'm prescribing them something stronger. But maybe in
Hmm.
this study, they weren't able to prescribe something stronger because maybe those people already had comorbidities that they worried about,
Right.
right? So maybe they were an alcoholic, or maybe that someone they didn't want to prescribe a benzo like a Ativan or lorazepam to.
Hmm.
You hear what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's other things that you can look at. And I think now it sort of raised a signal that said, okay, we found something here. Now let's really do the proper studies to see if there truly is causation. Right now, we know that there's a correlation, there's an
Hmm.
association, but we don't know if melatonin actually causes um, heart failure.
Right.
That being said, when we
Hmm.
see something like this, it just makes you take pause and think, well, if I'm just popping that melatonin because I like the taste of the gummy at
Oh,
night, maybe
yeah.
I should stop doing that, right? Because it's not as benign as it may appear to be. There might be some health risks associated with it.
Well, I remember, 15 years ago, people were concerned about taking melatonin, if you were a younger male, because it could change your hormones, apparently, your testosterone, and I think also with women. And so that was, I think, even back then, why I really have always shied away from it, more from a hormonal aspect. Um, but, you want to kind of like, it's interesting that they do these studies and these people and trying to match them, et cetera. But it's too bad, or maybe we'll be able to figure it out through AI. What would it be about melatonin in a body that has such an effect? Because I think the view is always that it was so benign, but
Right.
it
But maybe
right
it's not
that's
so
that
benign.
it maybe it's not benign, and if it really does help you, I don't know if it helps people fall asleep. Do you think it does work, Melissa? I don't know.
Anecdotally, anecdotally, people say that it helps. I
True.
found that when of times I've taken it, it helps. They give it a lot to kids. You'd be surprised. Now it's recommended to children often by their doctors just to take a lower dose of melatonin.
Yeah, but 15 years ago, there was a lot of concerns that young men should not take it. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that now they're giving it to kids. Like people
Yep.
kind of forget these studies and these comments and
Yeah. So it said here, so the study used 5 years of health records for more than 130,000 adults with insomnia who had used melatonin for at least 12 months. It determined they had a 90% higher chance of heart failure over 5 years compared to people who did not use melatonin.
that's interesting. Where was this study done, Melissa? Does it say?
So
Must.
it was multiple countries, multiple hospitals
Oh,
submitted their health records. So it was a global study.
wow.
Yeah. So it was said the study used the TriNet X Global Network, a large real world database built from de identified electronic health records provided by hospitals, health systems, and research partners across several countries.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
By
And
the
I
way,
didn't know
but
this, like in UK,
yeah,
in Europe, it is a prescription medication, melatonin. And
that's interesting too.
yeah, and what I didn't and here it's not a prescription. Here you can just go
Right.
pick it up off the shelf. And the other thing I didn't realize is that if you look at the guidelines from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, they actually don't recommend melatonin for people with insomnia, which I found
Why? Did they say why?
because the indication is really should only be for circadian rhythm issues. So jet lag,
Ah,
crossing time zones, that's the
oh.
indication for using it, not as a nightly thing.
And that was always the view. It was
Yeah. So we think we
circadian
can
rhythm.
get and people start, it's over the shelf, use it. We think of it
Yeah.
as like a vitamin supplement, no big deal. But sometimes you
Yeah.
gotta think twice about, you know. So
But
I
Melissa,
think yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, what's also interesting what you just mentioned is that, the fact that this study was done worldwide with de-identified information. Think about that. When you go in for your, testing because you can't sleep and you just sign away, there's one little footnote that says, "Do you mind if we give your information away?" I mean, in this case, you probably wouldn't care, but just think about that for a second.
Yeah, I never care. I'm like, yeah, go.
You don't care.
What, or this
Well, you don't
whatever it
care
says, like
now.
whatever is to go on my phone and it says something like when I download an app and they're like, would you mind if we use your data for rep? Just use my data. I don't care. He's like, I like it. I like when they use remember when people were all nervous about like Facebook and Instagram, like from privacy standpoint, and they were sending you, like listening to you and sending you ads that you were
Yeah.
interested in? I was like, fantastic.
Less work for
So,
me. Well, that you're playing right into what they
oh,
want you to do.
oh yeah. And then I go near Adam's phone and I say things I want. So it will start popping up on his.
Wait, wait, Melissa, you have to do that. Like, wait, you and I should both think of a couple funny things, and then we can both say it. I'll do it with Les's phone, you do it with Adam's phone. Let's see what
They start getting, mess it all up.
mess it all up.
Mhm.
Really confuse Instagram. Or,
Yeah.
well, my husband doesn't have Instagram, but something. They'll still get
Yeah.
ads. They'll get ads on X or whatever.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
The one other thing I saw, like about that, I also thought was interesting was a Wall Street Journal article about Trump RX, or the Trump administration looking at doing a deal with
Hmm.
Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly to
Right.
make the drugs cheaper
Yeah.
on Trump RX,
Hmm.
and also to do a deal with Medicare and Medicaid to make these drugs covered for obesity.
Yeah.
So that I think is interesting and something I'm watching, because that would make it the prices pretty similar to how they're gonna be in Canada. Like, we talked about how semaglutide or Ozempic is going
Hmm.
generic in, um, 2026 because Novo Nordisk didn't renew the patent here.
Hmm.
Well, their prices they're quoting that they're negotiating with Trump RX will be similar to the generic price here.
Hmm.
So that I thought of as interesting, just to see, obviously with like RFK Jr., like he's made obesity and nutrition a priority. And I think
Hmm.
if these drugs, if people can get covered for these drugs and they can be more affordable, like it's for the first year, I think it was 23 since 2024, obesity rates have actually declined. And it's got to be because of these drugs. And that's a
Hmm.
big risk factor for a lot of diseases.
Absolutely. And so then if you translate that into investing, this is where it comes down to, okay, well, what's the price per the drug? And is that overcompensated by, if the prices are going down, by the volume increases?
Right. So maybe that's what
And
I'm hoping.
are generics much less of a threat if the pricing is similar? And if that's the case, if both of those, if the answer to both of those in terms of increased volume compensating for the lower price and the lower price compensating for the generic risk, then because a lot of these pharmaceutical stocks who have the GLP-1 focus and have been hit because of these unanswered questions, then those stocks are potentially a buy. And you and I've talked briefly about that, and that'll be on my docket for next week. I'll do a bit more digging because guarantee you, the big Wall Street analysts are asking these questions and doing the analysis and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So, and I think I saw something part of that deal was also going to be they were going to expedite the FDA looking at the approval of Eli Lilly's oral GLP-1. I forget what it's called. Organotriptan or I don't know. I can never
Okay.
pronounce these. But what anyhow, so that will be interesting also. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you think about energy drinks, that's something that would potentially benefit from, you look at other like fast food and
Mm-hmm.
snack foods not doing well with people on these drugs, but things like energy drinks, well, a lot of people don't have the same energy when they're on these things. And if they're sugar free, then they're calorie
Yeah.
free. So that could potentially be good for energy type drinks.
Well, that's a great point. And when you think about Celsius as well and product innovation, obviously with people eating less, you're trying to get your nutrients somewhere and your protein somewhere. That's why you've seen a huge onslaught of these drinks that are trying to add in the protein. So it could be interesting, Melissa, maybe to take a look at that Celsius drink, just because of that. It could be worth it. And they obviously have the brand name, which is important. Oh, the one other aspect I wanted to mention to you about Celsius, when you think about Celsius or you think about any stock, you always want to think about what sector is this in and what industry am I in, right? So Celsius, so food and beverage, that's considered a staple because it's things we need. Toilet paper, toothpaste, Coca-Cola, that's in the staples category. What's interesting about staples is because we kind of all have them, the growth isn't there anymore. So what's interesting about a Celsius is you get this high octane growth, the top line's growing at over 100%, in a category that tends to be much less volatile than many other areas within the market.
Right.
Okay. So for people who don't like a lot of market volatility,
Yeah.
it's tempered a little bit by the fact that this is in the staples category, staples sector. Okay.
Why is it in the NASDAQ?
Maybe because it's a growth oriented
Or
company.
okay. Yeah, I just pulled up the 1 week chart. So it dropped
Mm-hmm.
from $62 to 45.
Big drop.
Yeah,
Big
that's
drop.
why when I said, "Isn't it majorly in the red?" I guess I wasn't thinking over the year. I guess I was thinking what I've been seeing in the past
Sure.
week in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
And some people might still say though, to the point, like it trades at a very expensive multiple.
Mhm,
So if they think that there's a little bit of hair on the story, you will
mhm.
see people coming in and shorting the stock. So again, it could be overdone, or this could be the beginning of a continued decline because people don't believe in, the growth category, or they think there's competition coming, right? From some of the big beverage companies. So all of those things come into play as well. And at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with buying a stock that might be priced higher. One other stock I wanted to just bring up real quick, Melissa. I know you have to go, right? Do you have 2 seconds?
Yep,
Do you have two? Okay.
2 minutes, yep.
Okay, 2 minutes. So another company you and I looked at about last October when we first started, or maybe a little bit, no, maybe a little bit after, was Ralph Lauren.
Yeah,
Again,
I
so
remember.
Ralph
You went to the outlet mall and you were like, "Wow, look at the lineups and it's doing great." Okay, so yeah.
couldn't believe it. I could not believe that at an outlet mall
Mhm,
that Ralph Lauren was so popular.
mhm,
And it was almost as though people wanting to have that full on North American look.
mhm.
And the stock has done well since then. I mean, it had been doing well, and I had a difficult time buying it because it had been doing well, right? I don't
Mhm.
love buying expensive stocks. It's been up 45% over the past year.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Interesting.
So that tells you that, again, like use your eyes, observe.
The other one we'll talk about for next week. I know we've talked about a lot,
Oh,
Aritzia.
yeah.
But it's interesting that more people are seeing this also as potentially because I think they're really gonna expand into the US.
And they've been there a while.
Been there, but not to the degree that like a Lululemon expanded
Okay.
to the US. So,
We can look at that next time. But I just want to one thing on Ralph Lauren. So they
yeah.
they just reported their most recent results. They beat across the board. They raised their fiscal year outlook. So again, all positives. They've got momentum across a number of regions as well as different channels. The revenue is accelerating. Their same store sales was 13%. Same store sales means what sales did I do this year and this exact same store as last year, and that's up 13%. Their gross margins expanding, which means they're not discounting as much, which means people like the product, so they don't have to put it on the sale rack. So that's all telling you that the brand is still very much intact and consumers like it. The risk, of course, when you're looking at any retail stock is, does consumer discretionary spending slow down? Does the brand momentum slow down? Uh, do tariffs have an impact? Does weaker spending have an impact? All to say, as I mentioned, the stock's up 45% on a year to date basis. It trades at 23 times, so it's around that market multiple. It's not too expensive. So again, if you like what it is and believe in the continuation, it's not too expensive, in my opinion. My opinion. So, but interesting to come full circle on some of those stocks that we've looked at in the past, like the Shark and Ralph Lauren and maybe a Celsius. I don't know. Just a
Okay.
couple on the radar. Yeah.
All right. I like it.
Okay, what you have to go, but what's on tap for your weekend?
I gotta get Carter, take him to tennis. I booked massages for me and Rebecca.
What?
A little treat. Yeah.
Rebecca gets a massage?
Oh yeah. Girls.
Well, she is an athlete.
But she is. She does a lot of dancing and her back's been hurting her and mine's also been hurting me lately. So we're going to get like double massages. And then out for dinner.
Hmm?
I don't know, not much. And I'm into Selling Sunset. The new season
Oh
is on
yeah.
Netflix now, and that's my guilty pleasure. I'm obsessed. I love
Yeah.
watching that. I just love their outfits, their plastic surgery. What they're I like it.
Okay.
That's on tap for me. What about you?
I'm gonna hit the beach.
Yeah, must be
Uh,
nice.
yeah, I just want to go swimming.
MBN to be Catherine.
What did you say?
MBN must be nice.
Okay. Yeah, and exercise. That's it.
Beautiful. That sounds
Yeah.
great. I did my workout today. Actually, I had a
Mm.
nice night last night. I was at a talk. The talk was given by a dermatologist, and it was specifically about how do we address uh, the aging face, but specifically for patients on GLP-1 drugs, because
Hmm.
it seems like when they've looked at it, for something about being on a GLP-1 drug causes more facial sagging, fat loss, collagen loss than losing a similar amount of weight
So
from
weird.
yeah, and so there was all sorts of different reasons for that. And so we were looking at specifically how we can layer dermal fillers with biostimulators like Sculptra to rejuvenate the face. So it was a really good talk. And then after the talk, then I met with some girlfriends and
Yeah.
we're at the Hyatt. Such a nice view. Haven't been there in a while.
Hmm. Wait, but is there anything to do with the GLP-1 faces? Like, did you learn anything that was really
Yeah. So they're studying more to do with it seems that the GLP-1s bind to a receptor in fat and somehow they cause I don't know, more effect in the face. So and it also can be like in our face, we've got different layers, right? So you've got your dermis, which has your fibroblasts and your collagen, but that you also have muscle, fat, and bone. And what do we hear about GLP-1 drugs? One of the biggest
Oh,
problems is that people tend to lose muscle and bone density in addition to fat. So if you're losing some of that bone density, you're losing some of the muscle,
wow.
you're losing some of the fat, then what's your skin going to sit on? Nothing. It's going to fall down.
This does not sound good.
It doesn't, but the body looks so good. So this is the thing. There's no perfect solution.
No.
So, if you lose and different people are susceptible in different ways. Some people as fat, we have certain people as fat's more resistant. So you have some people that lose 50 pounds on a GLP and they look great. Their face is fine. And you have other people that lose 50 pounds and you think they look sick. Like something
Yeah.
happened to their face. It just depends on how that person responds. So, uh, but the good side of it is that these stimulators and dermal fillers do seem to be able to help.
Okay.
Yeah, and just doing it slowly and not rapidly, and making sure that you get good nutrition, that you're still eating, you know, protein.
Yeah.
You're not just, having
A
1,000
French
like
fry.
a French
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and energy drinks all day.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. We'll leave it there. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.